Welcome to the Project, the podcast with the mission to cover every project throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And this week we watched the finale of Project Icon.
We did. After 6 weeks, we got to the end, and what a 6 weeks it's been.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? It was a real roller coaster emotion, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be weird not doing this anymore.
It will. We've had many discussions about where we're going to go after this, and no real conclusions yet, so you have to wait and see till next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got all sorts to talk about with that. We've got time codes in the episode description, so if you want to skip past this, go straight to our post-show discussion, you can do so. We've also got stuff in personal projects. I'm sure we both watch various things and things.
I've got a few films, but I can't remember what they are.
I was literally shocked. Oh my God. We'll have some time to look that up. Right. Before we get to any of that, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. We had a nice bank holiday weekend, so feeling fresh. We've got another one next weekend.
We're so lucky.
Feeling good. How about you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, not too bad. I was thinking it feels like a very long time since we recorded, but it's the normal amount of time for us.
Yeah, well, it's been a busy week, hasn't it?
It's been a very busy week. We've done all sorts. We did one thing together, though, didn't we?
We did.
Was it Wednesday?
It was Wednesday, literally the night the episode came out.
That's right. We went to see one of the Project Icon superstars themselves.
We did. We went to see Barry play at the Half Moon in Putney.
We did, yeah.
And that was a great laugh.
It was great fun. Yeah, it was Barry and supported by You Over Me, Jesse Faulkner and Fliss, all of whom were very good.
Yeah, they were all really good. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. I was like, this is a good show. And then Barry was great.
Yeah,
like,
really good.
It was like, oh yeah, this is exactly how I imagined Barry being.
Yeah, very good.
It was great.
Fun.
Pulled that guitar at one point and
yeah.
was like, oh, that's the way he got dropped.
Although you say that, we've got some revelations in this
But it was good fun. And we managed to have a catch up with Barry after as well, which was good fun. Get some of the insights to the show.
Yeah. Some little bits of goss that obviously will remain as goss there.
Yeah, although what we can remember.
Yeah, we were both saying we did have a couple of drinks, and honestly, I think that's probably helped the old NDA situation.
yeah. Don't worry, Barry. But
it was really lovely.
I think one thing that stood out that I'd kind of suspected was that Barry said that Frank was just really nice, and I was like, it's all a facade.
Yeah, and we saw that a bit in this episode, actually, didn't we?
We
saw some
did.
moments. You're like, you're not quite the statue man that we see. I can't think of it. I think he says the word statuesque in this episode.
He
that's
does.
What kind of stuck in my mind.
Joe, I know he said that because I spent ages trying to spell it in my notes. I can't remember the context. But I was like, how do you spell statuesque?
I know where it was, but we'll obviously get to that in a little bit. But yeah, it was a really nice time. It was nice to have a chat. Very good performances throughout, I thought, and just a nice variety of acts as well. Like, it's kind of rare to go to something like, especially like a smaller gig that you're not super familiar with everyone and kind of just enjoy everything that's there. So, it was really nice to say. And
I think it was Barry knew them all, so it's like they're a good group of people, and Barry was as charming as you'd imagine.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
met a couple of his friends as well. That were good fun.
Yeah.
But he was very quiet on. He didn't tell us who won.
No,
obviously we know now. But
tell us. No.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't because it was a surprise.
Yeah, and it was a really good episode, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. Before that, we've got a juicy old segment to start off, haven't we, Lewis?
We do. It goes something like this. Project News!
Woohoo!
Just got the one bit of news again this week, and it's from CBR.com.
Is that comic book something?
I reckon so.
I think it's Comic Book Reader, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But the headline is Rumour that MCU's Fantastic Four film sets up a Silver Surfer project.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, obviously. But it's basically saying that apparently Silver Surfer is not going to be in the Fantastic Four movie, but they are going to set it up. Apparently there were talks of making it a special Werewolf by Night
about that,
of him going around doing Galactus stuff. but they're going to make it its own film. There was one thing in here that I was like, that's interesting.
Just the one thing, yeah.
Well, there was rumors that Mila Kunis was going to be in Fantastic Four, and she's
the Silver Surfer.
No,
I mean that would be interesting.
Probably as Mrs. Fantastic,
Sue Storm.
Sue Storm, yeah. But she
the
said,
Invisible Woman / girl.
She said that she's not in it, but she knows who has been cast in it. So they have cast people.
She's still married to Ashton Kutcher.
God, I hope it's not Ashton Kutcher. But there's also apparently rumors that Galactus will be played by Antonio Banderas.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's a bit odd. I mean, I like Antonio Banderas.
I mean, I can imagine him having. I've really in the front of my mind is both Puss in Boots and Spy Kids, and neither of them have much kind of gravitas or seriousness to them. But I'm sure he can do it. He's done some very serious roles.
Yeah, but yeah, like you, that's where my mind goes to. Or did he do Zorro as well?
Yeah, Zorro, which is where Puss in Boots comes from.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's Fantastic Four comes out in 2025, and then apparently we'll get Silver Surfer at some point after that.
So what do you reckon for an Ashton Kutcher Silver Surfer?
Was
it,
no.
Dude, where's my Silver Surfer?
No, I think that people's number one cast choice that I think I'm on board with is Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Because it seems very well
suited. The only
suited.
problem is, did you ever see the Day the Earth Stood Still? There was a remake like 10-ish years ago.
No, I didn't.
He plays like the alien emissary who's very stoic and non-emotional, and that's pretty much what Silver Surfer is.
But I mean, he did The Matrix and then did like 3 roles that were basically Neo in different worlds. True, so like, I don't think he's got any qualms about that.
No, I guess it's a pretty fun thing. And he doesn't have to do much, does he? It's like, you don't even have, it could be a voice acting role, really.
Yeah, well, they're saying obviously in the Rise of the Silver Surfer, it was, what's his face? It was Lawrence Fishburne voiced him,
and it was Doug Jones.
Who did the because that's what Doug Jones does.
big like lanky stand-in people as well.
Yeah, good old Doug Jones. But yeah, so they might do that again and have like a stand-in and then have a voice over it because why not?
I mean, that's what they've done for most of the 3rd season of Mandalorian. Apparently, Pedro Pascal was barely on set.
Yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, so. Unsurprising news, we're going to get a Silver Surfer film later this decade.
I think the only issue I've got with that is that like Galactus is like big shit, like in more ways than one. And I feel like with a Silver Surfer thing, you can have the tease of Galactus, but I feel like he's got to be their own little thing they build to almost.
I think I'd like... Right, so I'm going to pitch the idea now.
Yeah, please.
So you have the Fantastic Four film, they go fight probably Doctor Doom or whatever.
Or some lower level thing and Doctor Doom's
and it has some sort of tease for Silver Surfer. Maybe do a special or a film of Silver Surfer, maybe him in like his home planet, and I can't remember what happened. Did he get destroyed?
Yeah, I think Galactus eats it and keeps him and is like, you're my guy now and you're doing
so stuff. Maybe have that as a film and end it with him getting taken by Galactus, and then that sets up Galactus to be the big bad for the next phase.
Even like first act of the special is him on his planet, Galactus comes, corrupts him, then it's his journey being like the slave guy, and ends with him getting to Earth and being like, I'm gonna go tell these guys. And then we just kind of have that left in the air almost.
I'd like to have Galactus as like the next big bad, and I think having Silver Surfer with him for a significant part would be quite cool, because obviously in Rise of the Silver Surfer he's basically straight away being like, I don't like this guy, quick save yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas like obviously he'd been working with him for a while,
potentially like billions of years or however the time.
I'd like to see some of that, because I think that'd be fun.
That's what I'm thinking. So maybe have most of that him having to do the dirty, and then he's kind of like over the years it's like a kind of fast forward through his substitute. Making up words.
Make it words.
And then he kind of ends being like, I'm gonna do the right thing, and you're like, okay, cool. And now we're set at the point where he would have been in that film, where he's kind of turned good kind of thing. But
you could even get like it not even necessarily be the Silver Surfer that tells Earth. It could be like Captain Marvel or something. She's space, and she could be like, hey, there's this guy going around eating planets. He's eating Xandar, because apparently bad stuff happened to Xandar starts the plot these days.
Xandar get blown up.
Thanos did something to Xander.
Yeah,
he took the Infinity Stone from Xander.
There's a Fantastic Four run that I think is one of the ones where they did a thing called they did Spider-Man Life Story, where it started in the 60s, like when Spider-Man started, and then it aged him appropriately through the decades.
Right.
And it did greatest hits of each issue was the 10 years, and it was the greatest hits of the storylines that were released in that decade kind of thing. So it was like a realistic fast forward of the life. And I'm pretty sure the Fantastic Four one, when Reed Richards first turns on the dimensional thing, he gets this foreboding vision of Galactus, and that's what sets him on his path. And then that could be the kind of thing they do, where rather than Doom, Doom could be the first bad guy, but it's almost like I guess that's quite similar with Tony Stark, where he gets that vision and he's like, I've got to do shit.
I've got to do shit.
But yeah, there's something to that. They can do something.
Yeah, I think it's kind of known that Galactus has been doing this for a long time, really, hasn't he? Is he a Celestial?
He will be in this, won't he?
Yeah, probably.
Well, fucking Ego's Celestial. He doesn't look anything like the rest of them, but I think it's more of a term for big space guys that we don't understand.
And they've been around since the dawn of time.
But he looks very much like Celestials.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, as well, is he's one of those figures in the comics and media that he can be the size of the planet, or he can be slightly smaller than the planet kind of thing. So, or he could be a big cloud, as in that Fantastic Four film.
I was trying to remember how he was depicted in Fantastic Four.
It's a big cloud. I don't think you ever even see.
Yeah.
I think there was concept art of the cloud went into his kind of head and helmet shape, but they never did that, and which is a bit boring.
Oh, but yeah, that'll be excited. I like the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, they've got some fun.
Hopefully, they'll finally make a good film.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see the rest of that casting. I'm sure it won't be too many more years. I remember last D23, I was they're definitely gonna tell us this time.
Apparently, the release date is February 2025, so that's less than 2 years away. Yeah. So we should get it at some point.
Isn't Blade supposed to come out this November, and they haven't even started making it yet? So
that's not happening.
But they got the guy who created True Detective on to redo the script, so that's a good sign.
Yes. So I think did we speak about that?
No.
Okay, maybe I spoke about it to someone else then.
Maybe you did. As if you speak to anyone else.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, that's enough Marvel talk for one day, isn't it?
Let's get into Project Icons. This is the 6th and final episode of Project Icon. We've been covering it every week without fail. If you haven't been keeping up with the show, the basic premise is Jason Derulo has handpicked 10 British artists to create the next big pop star.
Yeah.
But it's not your usual singing competition. They like to do all sorts. They like to make TikToks. They like to do music videos. They like to do collaborations. They like to do remixes. They basically want the full package.
They do, yeah. And that's something that comes up quite a lot in this episode specifically. Yeah. They're down to the final 3, and they're kind of looking at them and going, based on everything we've seen so far and what we see in the performances in this episode, who will they have to do the least work on? Which sounds very lazy, but they do talk about, the music business a lot, and they've already put a bit of work in to kind of whittle them down. So it's also Frank Harris, who is Jason Derulo's manager, I think lawyer and kind of mentor, it seems, in some ways. He's quite integral in setting this program up. He's one of the judges. And then Becky Hill, who's a kind of dance pop superstar of her own accord. She's the third judge as well, isn't she?
Yeah. And kind of, I was going to say presented by Jordan North. It's not presented by Jordan North. He's there with the contestants, making them feel good. He's a lovely guy. He's
kind of the host, but a lot of it is talking heads from the other 3. So he's kind of it's an interesting thing.
And
I feel like
he presents it in terms of that he does the voiceover more than anything else.
That's right. And I think from what behind the scenes and posts and what people have said, I think he was quite a presence on set, and he was quite involved in the maybe even introducing more than we see on camera. But yeah, he's a fun time when he's on.
Yeah, so at the start we decided to split the 10 contestants between us.
Yes, we did.
5 each. You lost the first 2, then I lost 2, then you lost another one, and then I lost another one.
Yep.
And then I lost a 4th one.
It was very even, yeah.
Yeah, meaning going into the final, you had Mia and Nena, and I had Dylan.
Yep. So
2-on-1 going into the final. 2/3 chance of Sam winning and getting to go out for dinner with Jason Derulo.
Yes, which was the prize that we definitely agreed with Jason Derulo beforehand.
Yeah, of course. So that is what it looks like going into the show. It's
the stakes,
very exciting.
Yeah. And the stakes for the contestants, as they kind of really...
the less important stakes.
As they really kind of emphasize at the start is, I can't remember if you said, but it's a record deal with Jason Derulo, and they also get to perform this summer at Radio 1's Big Weekend.
And they record a song with Jason Derulo.
And they get a song with him as well, where he's a featured artist.
Yeah, which potentially could be the biggest thing if that song's successful.
That's true, yeah, because a record deal, if they're put out and there's not the right level of kind of reception or
they'll
promo,
get dropped.
Well, yeah,
they'll be the 10th contestant get dropped by Jason Derulo.
Oh God, can you imagine if that's... I don't want to put any bad will out into the world, but if that ends up being a project news at some point, it would be both kind of... It would be very sad, but it would also be kind of funny in its own way.
You can just imagine
not to wish anything on anything.
Like the worst case scenarios happen. They haven't quite been successful, and they get a call from Jason being like, "Oh, can you come meet me at the studio?" They go down there
to the Manchester studio,
and Frank, Becky, and Jason are sitting there. And Frank goes, "It's showtime."
No,
I'd like to think,
I'm very sure that won't happen.
Yeah, I like to think Jason's a bit nicer than that. He seems to be very nice.
No, I just mean the general dropping. Hopefully.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I doubt it will.
Yeah, and so the other thing they say is up front in this, they say that they're all going to perform with some big stars, and they don't really say immediately who it is, but it is revealed that it will be Jason Derulo. They say big stars, but it's just Jason Derulo.
Yeah, well, he's a big star.
He's a big star. So yes, they'll all be doing a song with like a duet with Jason Derulo as part of this week's challenge. And they'll also do a song of their own as well.
Yeah, and it's in front of a crowd, mostly made up of friends and family, but they are performing on stage in front of a crowd for the first time.
And that's something, we haven't seen so far. So all of the other things have been either just in front of the judges or, well, pretty much just that, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Or up on their own in front of... Yeah.
So it gets into the episode and they're all like getting a bit excited. Nena's like, it's crazy. Like, she's super excited.
Yeah.
Dylan's like pumped and he's like, I want to play like festivals and stuff, and it's like I want to get that, and then Mia's got a cold.
I was like, it's such a shame.
I felt so sorry for her. It's like, of all times to get ill.
It is so.
And Jordan North's like, right, yeah, you need to look after yourself. Make sure you save your voice. And then it cuts to a talking head of Mia, and I was like, fucking hell, let us save her voice.
Yeah, and when they talk about what they're going to be doing, they say the Jason Derulo duet. They also say when they're going to be doing their own track, they're going to have a chance to work with Becky in the studio with a producer to kind of rejig their track and make it like super ready for the.
And it seems like, unlike last time they were producers, where it was a bit of back and forth, there's a lot more like input in this, especially with Becky.
Yeah,
like really hammering down, making an actual track
makes a big difference. As in, like she really gets involved. She asks for their opinion, but also isn't afraid to kind of jump right in there.
And I think all three of them appreciated that.
Yeah, they really seem to, yeah. It's also funny that they list off, like, Jason's going to do all the rehearsals with you. Becky's going to come in and do this. It's like, they don't mention Frank at all.
Yeah.
I know he's not really got any, like, he could teach them some music, legal stuff.
Yeah, so they each get given a song by Jason Derulo that'll be covering as the duet.
Yeah.
Mia's, and they each get rehearsing time. Mia's first rehearsing with Jason, and she's like, "I've got a cold." They're doing "Secret Love Song," which was Jason Derulo and Little Mix.
That's
I was like, "Yeah, that seems like a good fit for them."
Yeah, Jason says like part of the rehearsal time is so that he not even part of the rehearsal, part of this challenge is that he needs to know that they'll work well together, because as Lewis said, they'll be doing a song together, so he needs to know they're complementary to each other.
So they're doing the bit of practice of Mia's like, yeah, I'm ill, and Jason's like, that's a downer, but as we always say, like the show must go on. Like if you're touring and you get ill, you can't like cancel your shows.
And he does a little like, hey, I'm cancelling the show because I've got a cold. You can't do that. It's funny because this is the most like personality we've really seen from him. Yeah. And he seems like a real joker. Like he's really like
Jason
having a lot of fun.
Great. And like, I've seen his TikToks and like he's funny.
You can see that he can take the piss.
And all the contestants seem to be like, yeah, Jason's great. And we see it most of this episode. I was like,
he's got
Jason's so fun.
He's got such high energy. He's doing like little dances all the time.
Yeah.
Like he just seems,
he's kind of like the most like optimistic view somebody would have of Jason Derulo based on like hearing their songs and stuff. And you're like, oh no, this is what he's like.
That's the thing. And even if it's like a lot of showbiz people, you know, you switch on the personality, even if it's that, like it seems very like natural and kind of charming.
But I feel like you kind of see that later in the episode when he's performing. You see him switch that on and he becomes Jason Derulo, the performer.
You can even see like a saying like backstage he's doing his little warm-up moves and it's almost like do like Transformers. Like he's going into... I also thought it was really funny that in a couple of these rehearsals he's obviously like got this charisma that just like oozes because a couple of them are like, oh, I thought Jason was flirting with me. Like I bet it, you know, from our perspective it's like, come on mate, but like if you're there and he's looking at you, you're like, okay.
So when he's with Mia and like they're going through the songing, Jason's like doing lots of advising and seeing maybe do this. One thing he says to Mia is like, your words are too long, like you're singing them for too long. And Mia's like, okay, takes it on board, tries it, and Jason's like, yeah, perfect, because at the end of the day, this is his song and his show. You need to be perfect for him.
Because she says she already knows the song, but the way that she's been doing it is obviously her own version of it, and it's kind of it's doing little tailoring to that kind of thing. And I think the same with this challenge and the next part as well, when they do their own songs, it seems as much of a test of can they like react and remember like minute changes to something they've already memorized. Because when they do their own song, as we'll find out, they make changes and then they have to then almost relearn something they learned. And it's the same with Mia in this. I imagine she has to relearn a song that she's already practiced, kind of thing. So it's a test of that too.
We get a quick talking ahead here from Nana, and she's like, I think I'm gonna win. Dylan and Mia are good, but I'm not as good as me. And I was like, I like the confidence. At this point, you've got to be confident.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see.
And then we go back to Jason and Mia.
This is the bit I was talking about.
And Mia's like, oh, you know, like maybe I could do it like this and try this.
I think he suggests doing like, so there's a part just before the final kind of note where he was like, if we kind of do it looking at each other and singing to each other, and then we kind of turn out towards the audience to kind of like, as the note swells kind of thing. And then she's like, well, how about we do like the opposite of that? And she does her own suggestion.
And Jason's like, no, I think my way's better.
And he's like, the eye contact might be a bit like awkward. And then it goes to like her talking head and she's like, well, I don't really want to say anything, but like, I've got a boyfriend and like... And then
it's like, is he making a move?
And then it goes to Jason and he's just like, she kind of needs to just like snap out of that a little bit.
And she's like, he's like, when you're performing, you need to be able to like just lock into the performance and forget about everything else. It's like, I imagine he's just one of those people that's just like naturally charismatic that you just get drawn to, and you're like,
and I think it's also because it's a very romantic song as well, and they're kind of looking into each other's eyes doing a duet. So she's kind of like, I don't want to like.
I think everyone would be in that position.
Well, it happens again in this episode, doesn't it? So,
so they're going to be performing at the New Century Hall,
right? Yeah,
where apparently Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones have performed. That's a significant venue. It didn't look huge, but I think it's got a lot of history to
1,300 capacity. So it's like, you know, it's decent size.
It's decent size.
I mean, especially in this show, it's the most they've performed to by far. So it's a big step up in that sense.
We then get Dylan in the studio doing one of his songs, and we're introduced to Mike Howe.
Yeah, we have seen him before. But only in bit parts. So like when they did a couple of the other producing stuff, he was there.
Right.
And I have seen him, a couple of the contestants that have left have kind of tagged him in bits and pieces. So I think he's quite involved, but like with Jordan, not on camera so much.
He's a vocal director, so he's a big part of that. And they're with a guy called Trajan.
Yes,
who's the producer, who's going to be producing for all of them. Dylan is doing a song called Whiskey, which he says is like, it's a new song. And I was like, okay, fair enough.
It's so like, yeah, like one thing I noticed like throughout, like especially the latter half of this whole like series, is Dylan is constantly popping out with new songs that we don't know how new they are, but obviously they're new to us and they're new to the judges. Yeah. Whereas some of the others
do keep going
to the same song over and over again.
Yeah, I think Dylan's got a much bigger back catalogue.
I think you might have even said that last week.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he does this, and I'm like, yeah, cool. But also, it shows his songwriting ability. When the rest of them are kind of dependent on the same song every time, it's like, do you only have one song? Whereas Dylan's just like, oh, I've got enough one for this, I've got enough one for this. And it's like, yeah, he's got various good songs.
Yeah, there's definitely some moments in this where like there's some good signs here. There's definitely some good signs.
At this point, Jason's like, he was the front runner at the start, but he's had a bit of a rough ride since. And I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, I think it's partly being pushed out of the comfort zone.
Yeah,
which, you know, fairly or unfairly, in some ways they want to see what he can do, but also it's like, once you're an artist, you know you're gonna relatively stick to what you do, at least at first. So it's kind of like,
but like from their perspective, he was the front runner after episode 1, and then hasn't been the front runner again.
Yeah, it might have even been a case of like when they had the kind of show reel stuff come in initially, maybe Dylan had like a whole host of songs there, and talked about writing and producing them. And maybe that's one of the reasons they were like, we see a lot in this guy that maybe others don't offer. And maybe that was one of the kind of things there, potentially.
Yeah, so...
he says that they're asking about, like, because Becky's there sitting in, she's kind of listening at first, she gets a bit involved, but they say, like, how do you want it to sound? Who says, like, glorious, which is an interesting word, but with the kind of final result, I can kind of see what he was going for there.
To me, it kind of sounded like the 1975 in a way. I know previously I said I didn't like them, but it's that kind of sound, kind of vibe. Kind of that kind of indie pop sound.
Yeah, the kind of like more upbeat, brighter songs they have, that kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
And Trey says Dylan's a triple threat, because talking about the producing, songwriting, and performing.
Yeah, it's funny this, but when Dylan's like, oh, I've got this like indie pop song, and he starts playing it, Becky's face is like, this is not her genre at all. She didn't seem to be happy with it.
I think it's also partly because I think she even says like, oh, so it's more indie pop kind of thing. Like she's a little bit like, we kind of want to see something a little bit
There's
different.
A couple of comments on this that rub me up the wrong way.
That might even be when...
Imagine if you turn around to Becky Hill and be like, oh, another dance track, Becky. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Because she even says later to Mia, like, you have to constantly reinvent yourself. And it's like, yeah, but within your genre. Like, come on.
But
there's also, throughout this episode, I didn't write a lot of these down, but there's whenever they have one of these studio bits, they have talking heads of the other two, like really praising them, which is like a really nice vibe, and it really kind of makes it seem like everyone's kind of got each other's backs in this. So point, which is very
they asked Nena and Mia about Dylan, and Nena's like, oh, like he knows his sound, like he's really nailed that down. And Mia's like, yeah, he's a great lyricist. That's one strength he's got over us, is definitely, that his songwriting's great. And this is where a bit where we get Becky says Dylan's like lovely to work with, and then Frank's like, I'm a bit concerned that he's a bit one-dimensional.
Yeah,
and I was like, he as much as anybody in this show has showed varied performance, because he's an indie pop guy, but he's done like dancier tracks, he's done poppier tracks.
I mean, the Years and Years thing is very kind of dancey pop in its own way, isn't it?
And I was like, that's such a...
And he did really well in that one, I thought.
Yeah, I was like, that's such a weird comment to make.
It very much plays into our Frank hates guitars narrative.
Frank hates guitars. Because, also, and I'm like, I like Jason Derulo, but like all his songs are basically like R&B or R&B-esque. Like, you're not going to go around saying Jason Derulo is one-dimensional, are
you?
Yeah. I was like, it's just such a weird dig to have, but Frank hates guitars, so the next
the bit you said about Becky, after she listens to the track initially, she just goes, okay.
Yeah.
They go in and develop it post-chorus. They fiddle around with it a little bit, and Dylan afterwards, like you say, is like, I really loved that process. It was really good fun.
Yeah, because we mentioned before that he's kind of got some experience working in the studio. See, So to do it at like a professional level with professional producer and like a successful artist, it's probably like, oh, this is how it's like properly done. Next bit we get is Nena practicing with Jason.
Yes.
And they're doing the song Want to Want Me, which I was like, yeah, that seems fitting. Jason Derulo knows his stuff. Who would have guessed? He knows which song suits which person.
Exactly. And he's like, this one's going to work really well for you. And she's like, yeah.
Yeah. And like when they're rehearsing it, we get a talking head from Jason. And he's like, she is hitting crazy notes. And it's like,
he says hitting notes only dogs can hit.
Yeah.
And then after that like initial bit, he's like, well, instead of you singing the high bits, maybe you sing the main bits so that the focus is on you. And I'll do some of the other parts, the harmonizations.
Yeah, I do like that. Like Jason, he kind of has this double thing of being like, I'm going to be on stage, I'm going to be doing my thing. Don't let me overshadow you. But also, he's giving them the big parts so that they can show themselves because this is like nothing show to him. Like it doesn't matter how he does. So he's like, he's
already won this. He's
already got his record label.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I really want to like push myself and like do the best I possibly
She's
can.
She's got a shelf there that she just can't. She doesn't like where it is.
Need to push my shelf. And then she also then has a bit where she's like,
so they're doing a dance thing, and he's like, okay, so then we're gonna kind of like move up, like he says like put your hip kind of towards me, and he kind of does a bit of a crotch thrust kind of towards her. It's not like super like,
no, it's just like his hip movement. She's like
whoa.
he swung his hip at me. And I was like,
and this is when I'm like, well, everyone's falling in love with him. He's clearly very charismatic.
Yeah, I was thinking, do you reckon just like anyone that comes in contact with Jason Derulo fancies him?
It may well be, especially in a situation like that, because he's quite kind of, he's got high energy, he seems fun to work with, he's quite playful in that sense, but also I guess the seriousness of it makes it kind of just like he keeps on moving and you're kind of like, hang on, what happened there? Kind of
yeah. You know? And the fact that they're like practicing dance moves together. Like
exactly.
And
it's all the romantic music as well, isn't it? These Jason Derulo tracks.
And Jason says like Nena's energy is great, but she's still got a lot to learn to get up to par.
Yeah, he still thinks she's got a lot to work on before that song will be ready. Because he kind of threatens almost at the start with all of them. He's like, if I don't think you're ready to go on stage with me, I'm not going to go on stage with you, because his reputation's on the line at that point, effectively.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's harsh.
I was kind of like not hoping for, but I was kind of wondering if there would be somebody who might fall into that category. I was like, that would be very dramatic. And he's like, sorry, we're not going to perform.
We're not going to perform, you shit. Fortunately, they're all good enough.
Yes.
We then get Mia in the studio doing her song Over You, which we've heard a few times. It was the one that the Radio 1 playlist guys looked at last week, and they said, it's good, but it needs a bigger chorus.
Yes, and she takes that feedback on, and she basically works on that part, really, doesn't she?
Yeah, we get a little montage here of like the best and worst of Mia throughout the series, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
sure.
And we get the interview. God no.
Yeah,
like, no.
Yeah, and she said it's kind of climaxes in her being like, I can finally like actually believe in myself after this whole process, and I was like, that's good, because her main like holdback throughout this has been her self-confidence.
Yeah.
So she's finally kind of at that point. And she talks about the song.
Yeah, there's a bit here. I'm like, Mia, you need to just sometimes not say things, because she's talking to Becky and she's talking about the kind of backing music of the song. If you take away the lyrics, she's like, it's actually based on one of your songs.
Yeah,
she's like, you could just sing that song over it and it works perfectly. And Becky's kind of like half jokingly like, well, you might have a plagiarism case in your hand there. She's like, she's obviously joking, but like at the same time, you know,
it could have been a bit more original, considering it's
I feel like
her
maybe
go-to song.
Don't fully admit that to Becky.
Yeah, I wonder if Becky had like noticed it.
Yeah, maybe it might have come off the back of something. Yeah,
but they're working on like the production. Mia's like really happy to have Becky in her studio because she kind of looks up for her and
says
stuff.
That's like a real dream come true for her. I mean, they all say that in different ways, but yeah, specifically working with Becky is something that and
it's kind of like a dream come true type of thing. Becky says she's a bit concerned that Mia is unsure about her genre because she's like a busker and like a dance musician. She fits in both. She doesn't seem to be set in one, although she says consistently that she's a dance artist.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But I think we've kind of mentioned before that we feel like she would be even better in another genre. Maybe Becky seeing the same thing, or maybe Mia's still that as well.
Yeah. Frank says, like, yes, but she's young, she's doing well on the socials, and he feels like there is some commercial appeal there. But she needs a bit of seasoning, he says.
yeah. Basically, like, he's like, she doesn't really know who she is yet, but like, if we can guide her and take her under a wing, then she could be huge.
Yeah, I think the questions in this kind of last episode with Mia are like, there's definitely something there, and like maybe more so than even, well, obviously than the rest of the people who are out already is what they're saying. But like, but like, you know, there's a lot there. She's got a lot of kind of raw talent, and it's kind of the question of how much work do they need to put in at this point to get her where they want in the short amount of time.
Exactly.
That seems to be the kind of consensus there.
We get a little bit here at Mia's feeling really ill.
Oh yeah, she's just like on the sofa, like, I might go home.
Yeah.
When she said that, I was like, do you mean like go home? I was like, no, you can't just leave the competition.
No, I assume go back to their house.
For a second, I was like, what?
Because I can't remember where she's from, but York's a bit of a journey from Manchester.
Yeah. Probably like just drop out. I'm too ill.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, she goes back to the Icon flat or wherever they live.
Yeah, we get Nena in the studio next, and she's doing her song "Good Guy," which we've also heard a couple of times before. But she wants to make like a big change. She wants to make it like way more commercial. And there's this bit here where I think it might be later on actually, where Frank's like, yeah, she's making it commercial. She's changing it to make it more popular. It's great. And I was like, that is like, she's selling out. like,
no, I think it's more that's what she wanted from it, but she didn't do that.
I mean, the way they talk about like making it more commercial, I know that's the whole goal of the show.
Yeah.
But usually when someone talks about an artist being like, they did all this stuff, they're really good, and then they went commercial, it's usually seen as a negative.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, no, it's great. And I was like, okay. I mean, they are fighting to sign to this record label. You've got to change the sound to suit the record label, so it makes sense in this context.
And she talks to the producer, and he's like, we're gonna basically have to start from scratch if that's what you want to do. And she's like, okay. And it's kind of like, how much time have we got here? And I think when Becky comes in, she's like, you don't have masses of time to do it.
Yeah, we get Jason talking about her saying he didn't really notice her until the O2. You could say she was coasting until that point. But no, like, I think it's because like at that point she really stepped up and was amazing. And then the Radio 1 episode, she fucking killed it. And
she was
that was
good.
Last week, wasn't it? And I think after that we were both like, I think she's our favourite.
Yeah.
And Jason's like, I can definitely see her being on my label, and I think that's like the biggest call so far we've had about any of them. And I was like, oh.
And then Becky's helping in the studio, and they're talking about changing some melodies around. And she's clearly got a very good ear for it, Becky, because she's kind of listening and she's giving kind of direct feedback there. And this is kind of when I was thinking, like, especially in this case, because Nena's worked on this song for however long, she's learned it the way it is, she's probably listened to it back. Changing it completely must be a real like throw off for you. I think she even says she changes some lyrics around as well. It's like, this must be very difficult.
But Becky says that she loves that she's going commercial. Like, okay, cool. And then we get Dylan talking about Nena and saying that like he thinks Mia's great, but he thinks Nena's his biggest threat to winning the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And Nena says that Mia is her biggest contender.
And then they're having a little chat because Nena comes back and she's like, oh, where's Mia? And Dylan's like, oh yeah, she had to go home because she wasn't feeling very well. They have a little chat about like the how it was going to affect her performance and stuff. I felt like it was a bit of an awkward chat, as if these guys maybe don't talk that much.
Yeah, I'm like, they live together. I'm sure they've got on, but like,
it's not like in a bad way, but
it
like,
probably hasn't been many cases where it's just been those two.
That's kind of what it felt like to me, and I was like, oh yeah,
yeah, or maybe that's just how it's shown.
Exactly.
As we predicted, a lot of this is like, man, what did we really say?
That's one thing I do remember from talking to Barry. As you say, we only see so much, don't we?
Yeah,
so
well, that's always going to be the way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
like this.
Something we said kind of even from the first episode, because this is all pre-recorded, they've had X amount of time to edit this down and create this narrative based on even these final three potentially.
Yeah,
however much, it's almost a working backwards thing, I imagine. So yeah.
So Dylan's now rehearsing with Jason, and they're doing the song "It Girl."
Yes, yeah, upbeat pop song, guitar led.
Jason said it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah,
and he's like, Dylan, do you know the song? And he's like, yeah, this came out when he was in like school or something, and he really fancied this girl, and he'd go home and listen to this song.
He's like, I've got kind of painful memories, and Jason's like, this is a chance to work through those memories and make some new memories, and it's like, yeah.
And also, Dylan's gone into this rehearsal with his guitar.
It's so good. I love this bit because Dylan's like, so shall I play along with the backing track or what? And Jason's like, his face lights up, and he's like, the confidence is there. He's like, you're ready to just fucking play this.
Yeah,
now.
He seems so happy that he's brought his guitar along because he's like, yeah, you can just play it. Like, we'll just do that.
They start with, they do one with both, and then they're like, no, let's just do it with just you. And then Dylan's kind of joking around. He's like, maybe after this first release, we can do an acoustic release afterwards. And Jason's just loving it because he's like, you've got the confidence to just be like, we're doing the next thing.
I think it's at this point where me and Christina were talking about the three finalists compared to the three judges. And it does seem to line up that each one of the judges has got kind of their own like protege. Because like, obviously Becky and Mia are lined up. Frank's a huge fan of Nenna, and Jason seems to really like Dylan. Like bits like this, they seem to just click, and it's like I think each one of them has got their own like personal favorite.
Yeah. That would make sense, wouldn't it? 3 judges, 3 contestants.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's quite sweet because obviously it's been the whole Dylan's got a guitar thing, but Jason just seems to be so on board with everything Dylan's doing here. And I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Potential, yeah, and Jason's kind of giving some advice here, and we kind of find out in a moment that he didn't really feel he had too much advice to give, but the advice he gives is about kind of when Dylan's looking out into the audience to not look around too rapidly and kind of sing one line to a person, which is quite interesting because you think like when people do speeches or whatever, quite often you're kind of told to just kind of blankly look towards the middle space.
Yeah.
But Jason's saying the opposite and literally give people a one-line experience of singing into their eyes.
When he was saying it, I was like, that makes so much sense. Yeah. Like, particularly for like an artist like Jason Derulo, like it makes sense. And if you're looking around, then you're not attaching to anyone. You can probably really get into the song if you're staring people down.
And it also means it also means that then like if every song has X amount of lines and X amount of different people have those single experiences, they're all going to go away with these really good memories of the gig, the concert, and then that will spread the good vibes about this artist. Like it's all like
I remember a gig when we went to Glastonbury. I can't remember what artist it was.
Right.
I'm gonna fucking kicking myself for not knowing this. But it was in like one of the tents. And we were standing there watching it. I'm pretty sure like the lead singer was just staring at me for the entire set, and I was like, what? And then you kind of sit
like, you fucking want some, mate.
You kind of sit at the end, you kind of like phase off, and it's like, oh no, he wasn't staring at me. He was just really fucking stoned during this entire performance. I was like, it was childhood when we saw childhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was good, but he was just like, is he just staring at me the whole time? But like, I think he was just super stoned.
Just kind of staring into the middle space. Yeah.
Which where I just happened to be.
Childhood, yeah. He's in Warm Duscher now, a different band.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. With a couple of maybe just one from Fat White Family. Yeah.
Oh, cool. After this bit, after the whole looking around bit, Jason's like, he's like, he didn't need much notes at all.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I had to say something, but like, he's ready to go. And I was like, I mean, add in like the songwriting and the studio stuff. Dylan seems to be like the most ready.
At this point, with this and the studio stuff, I was kind of like, I'm seeing a lot of positives from this half of the show. Obviously, the performance is a whole different story. So I was kind of waiting to see with that. But at this point, based on what we'd seen, I was like, I'm feeling like Dylan's going in the right direction.
So at this point, I was still thinking Nenna.
Were you? It's
Nenna.
I think it was because of that feedback from Jason and the fact that the song needed so much work. I mean, I wasn't like set on anything, but it's kind of looking.
And Dylan comes out of the studio being like, "Oh, that was great. I think Jason really liked working with me."
He's like, I hope it was the case, but like,
it's like they did seem to like click. And then it's the day of the finale.
Yes.
And
Manchester, New Century Hall.
Yeah, and Dylan, because he's doing a relatively new song and he's changed some of the lyrics, is worried about the lyrics. And I was like, oh no, whenever they talk about people worrying about the lyrics, they get it wrong. Like every time they've done this, they've got it wrong. I was like, please, Dylan, don't fuck this up.
Yeah, no, it's not a good sign, is it there? But
and we get a bit from Nena saying she's a bit worried about the duet because Jason Derulo is Jason Derulo. Like he could easily take over the show.
They have a sound check and they film some of it, but some of it, a lot of it is like we see a little bit of the prep for it, and then we don't see the actual sound check. So I guess it's not spoiling it for us, kind of thing. But we see Mike Ho's there again, or how?
I said how, I think. It's H.
Yeah,
H-O-U-G-H. Yeah.
He's there. We can see him giving like last minute feedback and stuff. And he's talking to Nena about like the specific kind of notes that she has to hit kind of thing. And they're kind of going over it, reminding her kind of thing.
Becky says that like they need to be concerned because Jason could show them up here. Like he's a seasoned professional.
Yeah, that's what he says.
And Nena is asked about the rehearsal and she's like, it's hard to gauge like what that's going to be like actually in the performance. Mia's still ill, unfortunately. And Mike's like, just rest as much as possible, like just rest and rest and rest. And when he does like,
it's such a hard thing to say though, like what does that mean? You just sit there and try not to like worry, just like.
And when she does the soundtrack of Jason, he's like, look after your voice, you don't need to hit those notes now, like what are you doing? Don't sing this.
It's also like, it's fucking sound check, mate, like if I did it
but she's like proper belting it out and he's like, now's not the time, like look after your voice. Dylan's feeling a bit nervous, but he's like he's quite adorable here. He's like, it's nervous, but like it's good to have nerves.
He's like, it shows you care about it, which is very that is genuinely though, like with stuff like anxiety, like people talk about the mindset and the outlook and kind of changing that round in your head to like, I'm nervous because I care about it is like a really good trick to use. So
and it's like,
obviously got that down as well.
I'm nervous because I'm super excited and I should be excited
and
about this.
It's like your body being ready for a big thing kind of thing.
And I think we see that. I think Jason sees more the nerves than we do, because then he's like, Dylan needs to like relax a bit. He's too nervous. He needs to calm the fuck down.
Calm the fuck down. Because apparently he was playing slightly too fast, which was then changing the kind of tempo of it. And felt a little bit more rushed. And he was like, it doesn't have to be super high energy. It's a chill thing. We're relaxing.
And then it's showtime essentially.
Frank says 1300 capacity.
Frank says this could be anybody's game, and Becky's like, the standards are high, very high.
Frank seems super excited from this point on. It's actually very sweet.
He's been waiting for this for ages.
That's why he's got such a stony face the whole time. He's like, I want to get them the fucking final. I want to see them perform on that big stage.
He's got one of those like calendars on his wall with today's date circled. He's just putting crosses up to it, and he's like, "Oh, today's the day." And I was like, I was super excited for this point. So I was like, all three of them are great. I just hope none of them fuck up. Watching Christina, and Christina was like, she's like, I'm so nervous. I'm so excited, but nervous because like, you just don't want any of them to lose because they fucked up. You want them to lose because somebody else was just better.
That's exactly it.
Like they're all three really good people, and like I've enjoyed watching these people throughout this. All three of them are great, so it's like I want them all to do well.
And like we've spent so much kind of extra time thinking and talking about this. I feel like it's put the extra pressure on there for ourselves.
I'm investing in these people. And at the same time, I'm like, I've got Dylan in the sweepstakes. So come on, Dylan.
So we get a little onstage intro from Jordan. He gets the contestants out. He asks them how they're feeling. They have a little bit of onstage kind of banter there. They're all kind of like, we're all very nervous, but you know, we're excited to be here. Nena's like, everyone's looking beautiful. Like she's very charming as she can turn it on very well. And the judges are all sitting side of stage, a bit more like an X Factor or
they're kind of like at the back of the crowd. There's kind of another raised platform with three very comfortable looking chairs there. Where they're watching on from. And they get some last minute advice, and Jason's like, be proud of where you are, how far you've come, and just soak it in.
Yeah, he's like, this moment is yours.
Yeah, it's kind of like don't think about the fact this is the final. Just think about you're on stage singing in front of like 1,000 people, your own song and a song of Jason Derulo. Like that is a bigger achievement than most like singers will ever get. So like, just be proud of that. Becky's like, don't leave anything behind. Like, don't come off the stage thinking, "Oh, I wish I'd done that." Essentially,
And it's
leave
like, it all on the stage.
Yeah,
I feel like that's slightly more intense advice than Jason's.
Yeah, and then Frank's like, "You know what time it is? It's showtime."
Which again, I don't think was a thing from the start.
No,
I love it, and this was like the culmination of it, and it was great. But, like...
Yeah. So first up is Nena doing her duet of "What to Want Me" with Jason, and
there's a little bit before.
I was going to say, you look like you're about to say.
There's a little bit before because they talk about how Becky and Frank are going to be watching while the contestants are on stage with Jason. It's their job to kind of watch out for the little bits that he might miss, and this is when Jason's like, I'm not going to hold back when the light comes on, so they might be overshadowed. And they're getting really excited, and Frank's like, oh, fucking, like, he's getting really cute. Yes, and then...
Nena says, like, she's feeling confident because she won the semis, essentially.
Yeah.
And then they come on, and I thought immediately, like, Nena seems so natural doing this. Like, that duet seems like two people doing a duet. It doesn't seem like she was a nobody several weeks ago.
If you just turned it on kind of thing, it would be like, hell yeah.
And like, she sounds good. Frank goes, I'm telling you. He's
like, I'm telling you, Bex. Yeah, he, like you say, he obviously really believes in Nana, which is really nice. And this is when he's like stood up, he's got his hands in the air and he's waving them around. I'm like, who is this?
This is the Frank the contestants have seen for the last 6 weeks that we haven't. And I think one thing that stood out is that Nena just seems to be really enjoying herself doing this. Like, she doesn't seem nervous. We've always said once it gets to the moment, she steps in and does it.
And every time she steps off stage, she always seems like she said a couple of times, like, I want to do it again kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that is obviously a very important quality to have in a job like this.
Yeah. And she was good. When it finished, I was like, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
I think, like, one thing I noticed it immediately with this performance, but I think it was something across all of them. I think because it's a live performance, generally the vocals didn't all sound as sharp as they had done in the more studio settings. And at first I was kind of like, Nena doesn't quite sound how we've heard her before, but based on the reactions and the fact that everybody had a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think I agree.
So that was kind of one of my notes, was like, I don't know if she, sounds her best kind of here.
Yeah.
But performance-wise, like you say, and confidence, and nobody else criticised the vocals, so I imagine it must have just been the way it was recorded.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to record like a live show than a studio.
Yeah.
So,
of course.
Becky's like, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
And Frank's like, you had great stage presence, like that's what we were looking for. Becky comments on like the chemistry being good.
Yeah.
And she also says, Jason, after that performance, you deserve a record deal. And I was like, yeah, Jason throughout these performances is really good.
Yeah.
And at one point, Christina turned to me and was like, Jason Derulo does have a really good voice.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
Because he's been around for like 20 years as like a big like pop star. You kind of forget that, like, oh yeah, he is like as talented as them, if not more.
And I keep forgetting, like, I hear the names of some of these songs, and it's not until we hear them properly that I'm like, oh yeah, of course I know that song. Like, all three of these I knew. I mean, to be It Girl I probably knew the least, but even that, like, when it got into it, I was like, oh yeah, no, I've definitely heard this.
Based on the titles, I didn't know any of them. Exactly, and then you hear a bit and you're like, oh yeah, this one, like, that's great.
This was like in the top 10 for like weeks. Kind of
thing. I thought they were each going to do their Jason duets and then do their own, but it's the two Nena performances first. So she's up next doing her song "Good Guy," and she gets into it. I was like, it started a bit.
I think it was a bit of a weak start. I think, to be honest,
Becky really loves it.
I think, Becky's quite into it, but the rest of them look a bit confused. Frank was doing that face where he looks really like perturbed by it, and you're like, is he going to come out with some? But I think a lot of it is just really intently like listening and watching.
Yeah.
But like Becky's obviously they're all like clapping and they're being very supportive, but the faces of Jason and Frank are both kind of unsure.
Yeah, and I was a bit unsure. Once it got to the chorus, I was like, yeah, this is great. Like
I think
she's doing well.
The mixing was a bit weird because she sounded quite quiet. And I think the new backing didn't fully work for me. It was like a little bit like kind of busy, the whole thing.
That was kind of my take when I came out of it. I was like, she's clearly good. I don't think the song was very good. I think the song was kind of forgettable.
I think it's partly because they reworked it.
Yeah.
And originally it was a bit more of like a classic like 90s R&B jam kind of thing. Whereas they kind of added a bit more like electronic vibes in the background, which kind of confused the vibe a little bit, I would say.
Yeah, I think she's performed this better before than this one.
Yeah, potentially.
But Becky says it was a beautiful execution.
Yeah.
Frank says the vocals were good and she looked statuesque.
Yeah, I've got that.
There it is. And Jason was like, it wasn't great.
He said, I didn't love the song, but you sang it beautifully. And I'm like, I would agree there, yeah.
Yeah,
I think she had some moments where she showed off her voice, but she probably could have done a bit more of that.
It was quite reassuring when Jason said that, because I was like, that's what I've written down as my notes.
Me too, Jason. Well,
me too.
One of us can talk about it with him at dinner.
Yeah, be like, Jason, guess what? We thought the same thing as you.
We'll get that bit up and play it for him.
And then next up is Dylan doing his duet with Jason, It Girl. And do you know what? When they came on stage, both looked great.
Yeah.
Dylan with his guitar, and I was like, they look like a genuine duet, like a two act,
double act.
A double act. I was like, this doesn't look like abnormal at all. Like this could be just a double act.
Yeah, which I guess is something like we were saying with the kind of indie vibe, the guitar led stuff is maybe not something that you would imagine would necessarily work with Jason's vibe initially.
Yeah, but on
stage,
song,
absolutely. Like as soon as it happens,
and they're both really into it. They've got great chemistry together. And like at this point, I written down like, "Damn, Jason's really good. Like he is really good."
Yeah,
and Dylan's really good as well.
It starts off a little bit more mellow, like Jason was saying, and it kind of builds up a little bit. Frank's like bopping along throughout, very good vibes throughout, and I think they really kind of complement each other in this song.
Yeah, they just seem like a great team in this. We didn't mention last time, but in the Nena performance, the crowd were really into it. It was one thing that stood out. In this time, they're not as into it, the crowd.
Right, okay.
But I thought, like, probably because it's a slower, more indie song, it's not much of a like pump it up kind of tune,
kind of thing.
But I was like, damn, these two are a great combo. And I think you can really tell from this performance that Jason really likes Dylan. The way they're kind of dancing together and singing together, Jason just seems to be so like at home at this, and I was like, that's so sweet.
And that's a very good sign as well, isn't it, for the potential career together.
And then after, Dylan did the opposite to what Becky said and was like, I wasn't in it as much as I would have wanted. I wanted to do more, and I was like, he was great though.
Yeah,
I think like if he tried to force it more, it would have been a negative. I think the
more natural kind of.
The fact they both seemed like so kind of chill and just having a good time really added to the performance.
Yeah, it felt like effortless in a good way, rather than like not trying kind of thing. And also, like you can be very critical of your own performance in anything, so I think that's probably a natural kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. It's probably being nerves of being like, well, I can't just say it was amazing just in case they don't think it was amazing. Becky says like he was confident. She's like, I love him. I was like, yeah, everyone does. He's great. Yeah. And I think it's either Frank or Becky's like, we will really get like the star of Dylan when he does his own track.
I think it's Becky says, she loves him, but she wants to see him like on his own and just see what happens there.
But I think that's a good sign when you see him do a duet with Jason Derulo and you're like, this guy would be great on his own. Like, that's a great sign.
Get rid of that dead weight over there, Mr. Derulo. Dead weight Derulo, that's what we call him.
Dead weight Derulo. So then he's doing his new song, Whiskey, and I was like, please get the words right,
and he's
Dylan.
got new lyrics, you're right,
And straight away I was like, this sounds good. Almost immediately I was like, this sounds like an Ed Sheeran song, like a big Ed Sheeran
kind of
song
vibe. It feels like a kind of Galway Girl kind of thing, where it's like an upbeat, nice kind of relatable story kind of thing.
Yeah,
which is what Dylan wanted.
With like an indie guitar getting into like a big pop song, and I was like, And this song, I was like, this song's great. Like I could listen to this song.
Yeah, it was very fun. I felt like the guitar wasn't super clear on the recording, but that might have just been again the way it sounded to us at home. Vocals were very good, but just generally a very good performance. And felt like the kind of indie pop that you would hear on the radio.
And the crowd seemed to really get into this as well. Like they seemed to really enjoy it. And you could notice as well that he was doing the whole thing of staring into the crowd one line at a time. And I was like, he's really taking on Jason's advice here. And I was like, it just sounds like a fun song. Like this is good. There's not much else to say. It's just like, this is a good song. And then as it finishes, Jason's like, hell yeah. He's like, you had the audience eating out of your hands. And he's like, I could hear it on the radio. And like, I was singing along by the end of it. And I was like, that's like the highest praise you could get, essentially.
Very good. Yeah. And Frank's like loving the songwriting and the stage presence. He's just very positive.
And he's like, it feels like you are having fun. And Becky's like, kind of like, your joy was just like infectious. And I think that's why I was so into it as well. Because I was like, like Dylan is infectious with his like charismatic like charm. You just like, you can't not like the guy.
Why, as we said about Jason's charisma as well, they work well together. They're both very naturally charismatic people.
And Dylan's really happy with this. And I was like, good.
I think Becky says she loved every second.
Yeah, and then it's Mia doing the jet of Jason doing Secret Love Song, and this is where I was really, really nervous.
Yeah, well, she says she's very nervous as well, and we're like, yeah, I understand that.
And I was like, based on the narrative they built this episode, it would be very typical Project Icon for her to do something wrong here, because she's kept worrying that her voice is going to break.
Yeah,
because she's so ill, and I was like, oh god. And then she starts singing, and she's like amazing.
Yeah, the difference with this one, she sings for quite a long time on her own before Jason even comes on stage, and then he comes from in the crowd, it's like a very kind of showmanship maneuver there. He pops out, and she's just smashing it. It's very good.
Yeah,
they do the eye contact bit, and it's just like it just works, you know. They go out together,
and they look great together. And I think one thing that straight away I was like, this sounds like a genuine song, an original song with these two people. Like this sounds like how the song's meant to sound.
It's a very, very kind of clean performance. It almost sounds probably out of all of them maybe the closest to like a recorded performance. I think because Mia has a very kind of clean vocally voice, like she
vocally voice
clean. Her voice is very clean vocally speaking. But just very professional performance overall.
And Becky's like so good. And Mia's really happy with herself, and I was like, oh good, I'm happy for her.
She said like she thought she did really well despite the nerves kind of thing, which is true.
And Frank's like, she's got an unbelievable voice, and I was like, yeah, she does. She really does.
I think he says she sung the hell out of it, which is absolutely true there.
Yeah, and Becky's really proud because it's her little protege, her Padawan. I was like, oh good. And then she's doing her own song, Over You, which we've been through this song. Like we've heard it when she did it episode 1. It was like, she's got a great voice. Put it through, I think it was one that was remixed.
Yes.
And it was like,
so we heard Dylan do a version of it.
Yeah.
And then I think she may have even sung it in her Sing to Save Your Life thing as well.
Yeah. And we heard the playlist team talk about it being like, it's a good song, it needs more of it. So I was like, I know this song by this point. And it is, I think probably because we've heard it, I was like, it is quite catchy.
It's very catchy. It's one of the ones that sticks with you afterwards for sure. Like, find myself kind of it stuck in my head or whatever.
And the crowd love it as well. Like once she gets going. And one thing that I kind of wasn't expecting as much from Mia as the other two is her stage presence. Is just
she does
great.
Very good stage
like for somebody that's like quite small and nervous, like she owns that stage, and it's like, she's really stepped up here. And I was listening to it. I was like, I don't think I love the song, but like.
I still think songwriting / structure, something there is still needs maybe a little bit of work. I think there's some good sections of the song which are very memorable, but I think it kind of it's a little bit bitty still. And I think that's probably what she wanted to work on, but they probably had limited time. I was thinking like that.
It's good, but it's not like great. But I was thinking like I could definitely see myself like going into a club and hearing this and being like, it does not seem him out of place, just being like,
not,
yeah, and singing along to it. Jason says it was amazing and that he got it stuck in his head because it has got that catchy hook.
When
she
really
sings
does.
The title.
And you can notice the differences. They've added a little bit more kind of backing stuff, made the chorus a bit punchier like they wanted it to. And yeah, just generally like vocals, of course, just smashed out the park with it. Really.
Yeah, and Frank's like, that is the performance I expected.
Yes.
In a positive way.
Yeah.
And Becky's so happy. She was like, the vocals I'm really happy about.
And Jason again says, similar to Dylan's, that it's an original song. It's stuck in his head. Very good sign.
And she's really proud of herself. And then that bit, I was like, oh, can breathe now.
Yeah.
They all fucking nailed it.
They all nailed it. Now it's
Thank God.
It's like you said. Now it's a decision based on merit rather than like some external factor. That
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Frank says like it's anybody's game at this point, and I was like, you're meant to be one of the judges. You should know by this point.
He's like, I don't even know who's gonna win.
But he talks about like not only do they need talent, that's a big thing, but they need to be able to write. They need to have that superstar spark. That X Factor, if you will, that pop idol, as well as having the voice. They need to be a project icon. And they also need to be good at building their brand. Because I think one thing they say is Mia has a much bigger like social media following.
Yeah, they say she's easy to find records for.
I think when he said that, Christina was like, "Oh, I seem to see the other two on like Instagram a lot," and I was like, "I think it's TikTok," and I looked on TikTok, and I think Dylan had something like 2,000 followers, and Mia's got like 400,000,
and
it's like,
I remember that
on
from
TikTok.
the start. Yeah, she's obviously. I mean. Yeah, she's carved out a little, like, I wouldn't even say niche there, but she's got like a real good following already. Yeah,
and then they start talking about each one independently.
Yeah.
Frank says Nena's really grown as the show's gone on, and Jason points out she's got a great voice. Becky says that she killed the duet and like she's already a star. And I was like, yeah, Nena sounds great. I wouldn't be surprised if Nena wins this. And then Becky's like, Mia was phenomenal.
Frank says she's a pop star.
Yeah, and Jason's like, she's the easiest to find a song for.
Yes.
Because like she's current and she's got a following. And I was like, sounds like Mia could win this.
But Becky does say she might need a little bit of time to get her where they want her, which is what we were saying earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, Jason says that Dylan is 100%er.
Yes.
Because like he's a great singer, he's a great songwriter.
Producer.
Yeah, and like he's the most ready.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, Dylan could win this.
But then Frank does say maybe not as commercial as the others.
Yeah, he's like, you got to think of like a global sense.
That's it,
Might not have the same reach.
And I think globally, broad pop, not to downplay pop music, of course, but broad pop is more popular.
Yeah.
Whereas like an indie pop is inherently slightly more of a niche, even if it's not like, I mean, if you count Ed Sheeran as indie pop, which I wouldn't really, but there's comparisons with what we've seen from some of Dylan. I don't think you could be like, that's unpopular.
no, exactly.
I feel like I've said pop too many times in the last 5 seconds.
And even if he does go like more indie pop, we mentioned like the 1975 are a hugely successful band. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Or like there's who's the other? We've mentioned some others in the last few weeks.
I mean, even Years and Years, if you count that as I would say that's probably less indie, more pop. But yeah, it's
yeah, exactly.
There's stuff out there, isn't there?
There's stuff out
there. There's loads of stuff.
Music
out there.
exists.
Yeah, go and listen to some. Don't stop listening to us.
No,
we don't need to give our opinions on pop music.
This kind of got away with you a bit here, didn't it?
What?
So then they all get back on stage.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna find out who the winner is. Jordan says, so Jason, who do you want to sign?
Yeah. And for a second I was like, so is this just his opinion and then we're going to find out each of their opinions?
I thought the same. And then Jason goes, the winner of Project Icon is...
Yeah.
Dylan! And I did a little, I think I would have been like, to any of them. But particularly I was like, Dylan. I think it's because... I think Dylan was, if I had to pick one person I didn't think it was going to win the final, it would have been Dylan.
Yeah.
Because,
and not because of anything in terms of like
I think
what he can do. It's more because of I think what we expected, that what we thought they wanted. Exactly. Almost
I think of the three artists, Dylan's probably the one that I would listen to the most in like my own time, but from, as you said, from what they want and working with Jason Derulo,
I think it's just that expectation because they weren't super clear about. And I guess the whole point is that they weren't super clear about what they wanted because we had people of all different genres.
Yeah.
And I guess we were just imagining that he wanted someone that was close to his genre, but that's obviously not the case. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got all these other people involved with it.
I know, it's like, great. Congratulations, Dylan. Yeah. Like he did deserve it. Like he was brilliant throughout this. Even when like they criticized him, we were always like, that seems a bit unfair.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like other than like a couple of episodes, he was always in our discussions of like who we thought had potential.
Yeah.
Like I would say in at least 2/3 of the episodes at the end, even if it was like the case of we're being like, well, we knew he was a front runner from the start. So obviously there's something there that we haven't necessarily seen yet. That kind of thing. I think
even the fact that like we've had that running joke that Frank hates guitar, which if you break it down is just because they keep unfairly criticizing Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the fact that we keep saying that shows how much we rate Dylan.
Yeah,
and he's like speechless. He looks so proud of himself on stage. He thanks everyone.
It's
he gets
very
emotional.
nice. He starts doing. He says speechless. Starts doing a bit of a speech, and kind of you can hear the emotion come in as I guess the realization hits, and he's saying like the world needs to see like people like me. And great things for great people, and the judges are all like, we so agree. They're all like clapping him and stuff, and it's just he spoke earlier. We kind of missed over a bit earlier when he was talking about like he mentioned his journey transitioning, and he said his hope for winning would be to have somebody that a younger version of him who was in his position could look up to, and I think that kind of comes full circle with this part here where he's talking about.
I saw an article earlier on BBC that said he's the first trans winner of a singing competition.
Yeah.
And I think I can't think of, I'd probably missing somebody, but I can't think of any like huge like trans pop stars or anything.
Yeah, I'm not super into the pop worlds, so well, apart from the one down on West Street, eh?
But I was like, I mean, and I mean, nobody can say that, oh, you know, he's trans, so he won. Like, no, exactly, he won because he deserves. He's also trans, and that's great.
Yeah. Well, I've seen, like, as you said, like, it's been highlighted that it's like a big win for like the LGBTQ community and the queer community in general. I completely agree. Like, it's completely merit based, but it's good to have somebody like that in the kind of the limelight, in the spotlight, and
I hope he becomes really successful.
Me too. I'm very, very happy.
We then get the judges come on stage, and Jason immediately goes and hugs Dylan. And then the other judges, and I thought, oh, they're teaming up, like I said, but then Frank hugs Mia. And Becky hugs Nena, and I was like, wait, that's the wrong way round.
You're like, no, hug your other person.
But then they all go and hug each other. We get some talking heads. Mia says like, oh, she's really proud of how she's come here. She's 18, she's got time to grow.
She's gonna go back, keep busking, grow and learn.
And Nena's like, I'm like to get this far. Like, I've done so well. I'm so proud of myself. I think getting to this point is like a huge achievement. I think getting on the show is a big achievement, to be honest.
True. But
like, particularly for those three, like they got lots to be proud about. And as we were saying, none of them lost because they fucked up. They just didn't win because
exactly. And
Jason
I'm very
Dylan.
happy with that, because especially with the whole plot with plot, you know, it's plot for us. It's on the TV. All the stuff with Mia having the cold and stuff, and you were really like, I just really didn't want that to be the reason why.
Worrying about lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a big relief.
So that was.
And then business. Frank gives a bit of a business chat here where he's like, yeah, now we gotta like go record it and we've got to be good and we've got to sell some records or something like that. And I was like, yeah, cool, Frank. And that's like the end of the episode.
It ended so abruptly. I was like, okay. But like, part of me, I guess with some of these things, they do a bit of like, and now this person's working on this or whatever, and do a little bit of a but I guess not. So
well, this was recorded weeks ago. I did on that BBC article. I saw that Dylan is in LA doing songs with Jason.
Okay. Well,
at
that's
the
something
moment.
I don't think that we spoke to Barry about when it was recorded. So if we get a chance to talk to anybody else, we'll make sure to ask that and find out when, because it looked like it was quite nice weather, so it may have even been like last summer.
Yeah, that's what
quite
I
often
think.
it's like a 6 month
always
thing.
sunny in this show, and in Philadelphia. But also that means in terms of the sweepstakes,
yes,
I pulled Dylan out in episode 1. I win the sweepstake. I get to go out for dinner with Jason Derulo.
You get to see that charisma in person.
I can't wait. So, Jason, if you're listening to this, we've got to make plans. You can get all our socials. When you're next down in Brighton, hit me up. We'll arrange a dinner or something. You can even come around to mine. I'll make you dinner. We'll do something else. Sam's not invited. It's just me and you, Jason. And I'll come out of it like Mia and Nana being like, oh my God, I think he fancies me.
I love Jason.
So yeah, Jason, get in touch. Yeah.
There's the clip for the episode.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no, I think, any of them could have won. So
yeah.
I'm happy I won the sweepstake.
And I'm happy that Dylan won the competition.
Yes, I think I'm probably happier about that. Because,
yeah, of course.
Believe it or not, I don't actually think Jason's going to come have dinner with me.
I think if he spent a bit of time in London and Manchester recently, he might not be in a rush to come back anytime soon.
I was going to say, even if he's in London, I don't think he's going to come have dinner with me. We'll never know.
You never know.
But that's the end of Project Icon.
It is.
It's a sad
For now,
time.
we never know. It depends how popular it was.
We might get a season 2 next year.
We may
Imagine.
Well and the Project Icon's premiere post-show discussion podcast will, of course, be back to record.
Yeah, we
new
will.
episodes.
So, what did you think of this episode overall?
I really liked it. I thought it was good. It didn't have some of the kind of. We've had some very dramatic moments throughout. We've had some interesting challenges. This was a little bit more what you'd expect from this kind of TV show. But I think because it is the first time we've seen them do like a live performance and stuff, it didn't feel like stale or like boring. It was still a very exciting episode.
I think this was my favorite episode. I think because you saw like the production, the rehearsal with Jason, and then
had a bit of everything.
We saw more of Jason. The stakes were really high. The performers were all like exceptionally good. Like I thought this was.
I did mention
really
as
good.
well, great outfits from everybody.
Yeah.
I think everyone had 2 outfits, 1 for each performance.
Yeah.
Very good outfits, everybody.
Very good. I liked how Dylan's like low cut shirt matched his guitar.
Perfect.
I was like,
yes.
nice. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the same.
Cool. Do you want to give a rating for the series overall as well?
Okay. Well, do you want to give a rating for the series overall?
Sure. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because I think it's not reality TV, particularly like singing stuff isn't my usual bag. But this was really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed covering this.
I think it was very good. Yeah, are you going to go 8 out of 10?
8 out of 10. Yeah.
I think it was very good. I think it was the perfect amount of episodes. I think 6 is really good for something like this. I said in the first episode, I really like reality TV when it's this kind of tightly edited, tightly paced, week after week. You don't have to watch 10 hours of Love Island to understand what's going on. In that sense, it was the perfect kind of show and size for me. I think probably a 9 out of 10 because it's not fully my bag is probably slightly too high. So I'm also going to go with an 8 out of 10.
I thought you might. So that is the end of Project Icon. You've got a bit you usually say here.
Well, yes. If you are just here for the Project Icon talk. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? If you're just here for the Project Icon talk, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed everything you heard. If you've got anything that you want to tell us about Project Icon, any behind the scenes gossip or any views on the contestants or the winner, please do let us know. All the details are in the link tree in the episode description.
That's where you can find it, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I nearly went into the next bit, but I was like, wait, no, this feels off. What am I missing here?
Some people don't care about... I mean, we're not talking about Star Wars TV shows this week, but we will be talking about some other stuff.
Who knows what we're talking about? I don't even know. But it does mean that it is now time for... Personal Projects.
It's personal.
Projects.
So, Sam, what have you been watching, reading, or playing?
I was expecting more then, but yeah, I don't know why, because I've just been watching stuff.
Was it a conversation on Pod we had about Frank sentences where it always seems like he's about to say a bit more and then doesn't?
Yeah, I don't know if that was on Pod, but yeah. I'm always waiting for the next bit. But yeah, I think we do that quite a lot as well, to be honest.
That was a really good performance.
It's the strange intonation of Frank Harris, which just sounds like a novel there, doesn't it? The Curious Case of Frank Harris. I've been watching a couple of things. One thing that I watched was in the cinema. Went to the cinema to see it.
A film called In the Cinema.
No, I went to the cinema to see Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How was it? Scary?
It was quite scary. Yeah, it was one of those things. I watch a fair amount of horror movies, like, you know, average, I guess, maybe a bit more than average, but I don't go to see them in the cinema a lot because it's scary.
I don't think I've seen a horror film in cinema since I was 16.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw one in the cinema. One of the moments that I always remember is seeing Paranormal Activity in the cinema, which isn't like as scary as some films, but it's all about the tension and the atmosphere and building to what you might say is kind of a nil end kind of thing. It kind of builds to nothing in some ways, but it is quite effective building tension, and that's very effective in the cinema. And that was something that I saw in this as well. It's the 5th Evil Dead film, I think. There was a original trilogy of sorts from like I think it was 81, then 87, and then 91 or something like that. And they're kind of a loose trilogy with Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
So Bruce Campbell being kind of very wacky and comedic, and they're not super serious films. They're very kind of schlocky, and there's lots of practical effects and lots of blood shooting everywhere in very kind of silly fashions. Whereas I think it was 2013 Evil Dead was like a semi-reboot, was way more like gross out horror. I remember seeing the trailer, and there's a part where like somebody gets like a scalpel and like licks it and their tongue splits in two. And it's like very visceral, like horror stuff. I've seen that one as well. It's very good, but it is a reboot. So it's a similar thing. Whereas this is a little bit different. It still follows the same thing of people finding a curse book and then accidentally reading it.
I saw the trailer for it before Renfield.
Did you? Yeah. What did you think of the trailer?
I was like, ooh, this is scary. I think me and Christina were like, we've come to see a comedy. Why are there so many scary trailers?
No, did you see the trailer for the one where they're talking to the hand and it's like...
There's like the hand because the face.
It was like a kind of like preserved hand, and they have to talk to it, and it follows them or whatever.
I don't think
so.
So
Basically, me and Amy came into the cinema, and it was on a bank holiday Sunday. So traditionally, lots of people go out drinking that night because they're not in at work on the Monday. So the cinema was deathly quiet, and we walked in, and this scary trailer about a cursed hand was playing, and it looked like the cinema was completely empty. And we were like, "Fuck!" Like we're watching a scary film on our own. And you know, sometimes they have seats that are like partly covered with like, not partly, they're covered with like a plastic thing. It's like, don't sit here. It looked like loads of them were like that, and it was like a really creepy thing to walk into. So I think we kind of set ourselves up into kind of a creepy vibe.
That's
so
good.
There was a couple of like more like adult comedy trailers. So it kind of like we got kind of relaxed into it a little bit more. But yeah, the general premise is like there's a apartment building. There's like a family, like a strange family, like a sister comes back to see the single mum and the kids. And then there's an earthquake, and under the apartment building, there used to be like a bank, and one of the kids goes down and he finds like a vault, and it's like, there's loads of like crucifixes, like hundreds hanging from the ceiling. It's like something's down here that they don't want it to get out kind of thing.
Right.
And he's into like DJing. So he finds some vinyls in a vault, and he like gets those, and he finds this book that's like wrapped up, and it's got all cockroaches on it and stuff.
Lovely.
And he takes it upstairs, and he opens it up, and he's like, this looks fucked. Like it's got loads of like demonic pictures in it. And then he plays the records, and it's a priest from 1923 who has found it on some archaeological thing and has taken it back to LA, I think is where it's supposed to be set. And then he starts reading the passages on the vinyl. So the kid doesn't have to translate or read it. As soon as it starts reading it, shit starts happening. The mum gets possessed by like a demon or otherworldly thing.
Yeah, I think I saw that in the trailer.
And then from then on out, they're kind of basically fighting the mum kind of thing. And there's some really good moments. It's very kind of very, very bloody violence. There's lots of like household items being used in horrible ways, and in fact there's kids there. One of the kids is quite young, probably like, I don't know, like 6 or something. That's quite like horrific. You're like, hopefully nothing happens to the kid kind of thing. And there's some really good moments in it, and it looks very good. It's very kind of spooky. If you've seen Evil Dead films before, it's not doing anything particularly original. It's almost another reboot, which is the only thing I kind of say against it. But I had a very good time watching it, and they do some fun stuff with like slightly. Some of the Evil Deads have kind of creaturey things where the people kind of mutate into slightly more otherworldly things, and they kind of do some stuff quite original with that at the end. And there's always a chainsaw and a shotgun, because that was Ash's original stuff in the other films. So they do a bit of referencing and that sort of thing.
Nice.
And
they've got to do that.
Yeah, I've seen people kind of criticize that aspect, but I'm like, that's kind of the tropes that you want to hit with a film like this.
Yeah.
It was a really good time. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm excited to see more.
Probably won't go to see it.
No, but if you ever feel like, I mean, to be honest, like, I think if you watched it at home and you're kind of like, this is going to be a bit silly, you could kind of get past the more horrific aspects. If you've got like, you know, the lights on or whatever. In the cinema, I kind of felt those aspects a little bit more, but yeah. I wasn't too scared throughout.
Yeah, I just said I haven't been seeing horror films since I was 12, but we literally went to see Halloween last year.
Oh yeah.
I guess I've been trying to forget that because it was bad.
Yeah, I mean that was more like slashery, wasn't it? Like, I mean, a lot of this is something that I think I didn't find as scary. Although it's supernatural, it's more a case of like a person being possessed and then they can like lock them out, and it's like it's one thing kind of thing. Whereas like the stuff that spooks me out a bit more is the Paranormal Activity thing, where it's like it's in the ether, it could be anywhere kind of thing. That's the thing where I'm like, oh no, a ghost.
Oh no, a ghost.
I'm a proper Shaggy in that aspect.
All right.
Ruh-roh. Oh no, that's Scooby, isn't it? What does he say?
Yeah.
Zoinks. Is he Zoinks?
No, that's Velma.
Oh yeah. But she's Jinkies as well. I think he is Zoinks.
Oh yeah, he might be. Yeah, I was probably thinking of Jinkies.
Yeah. So what have you been watching?
So I haven't been to cinema, but I have watched a few films on. I think it was Saturday morning, feeling hungover. I was like, oh, I want to watch something silly with my lunch. And I watched the brand new 2023 Netflix release, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Once and Always.
Oh, yeah, I did see this.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes long or something. Okay. And like the basic premise is like, it's the Power Rangers are now like, it's the same cast that it has been for a while. They're in like their 40s or 50s or something now. And the Rita, whatever, the big Rita, old villain, she turns up and it's
Rita
like
Revolta or something
like that. Yeah. And one of the Power Rangers gets killed, and like she shoots something, and she jumps in the way and gets killed, and they have like a funeral and everything. I was like, oh fuck, intense stuff.
Because some of the original casts have died.
Yeah.
So was it one of those people, do you think?
Potentially, I don't know. There is a bit of a montage where you see like her greatest bits later in the film, so it might be her. But her daughter in universe like kind of steps in. And they get some other Power Rangers in, and it's just classic Power Rangers stuff. It's really silly and like childish.
Is it very like what is it, like nostalgia bait in terms of like, you know, like in The Force Awakens, the original cast come back? Is it that kind of thing a little bit? Not too much.
They only get in like 3 old cast members, so it's not too heavy. But
right, I see.
But it was still a bit of nostalgia stuff. But I did feel like, oh, if I'd been watching Power Rangers for the last 30 years, this would probably be really emotional. Because the daughter's trying to go like Sabretooth with a thing, and it's not working for most of the film because she hasn't got the Power Ranger power. No. And then at the end, she does it, and like I think the other ones come in because Rita like shrinks some of them, is like stealing their power, and she wants to open a time portal to go back in time to work with her younger self, and tell her what's going to happen, and they need to stop it. And it's like, it's a bit silly, but it was good fun.
Were any of them from the one that we covered for the podcast?
No.
Did you recognize? Was it Joel? Joel, who was the main guy in that?
Joel was not in it.
No.
But it did play the iconic riff a few times, and I was like, go Power Rangers.
Nice.
So yeah, that was a bit of silly fun on Saturday. I also over the weekend watched Army of the Dead, the Zack Snyder zombie film.
Okay, yeah.
Which when you're on Netflix and it starts playing a trailer, I was like, oh, this seems interesting. It's Dave Bautista. It's like they've locked down Vegas because there was an apocalypse there. Yeah. And then when it started, it came up Zack Snyder, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I remember Zack Snyder making this film. This is
the one. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there's the prequel as well, Army of Thieves.
Yeah.
Which I didn't watch, but it's got the Vault Breaker.
Yeah, the German guy. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? A heist film set in a zombie town could be quite fun. Yeah. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I actually talked about it on the podcast. So.
Did you? I had a feeling you had.
And Army of Thieves as well, but I won't hold it against you there.
It was ages ago.
Yeah.
But what do you reckon? It was good fun. I feel like it kind of lost its way a bit in the second half. The first half, I was like, this is fun. The heisty stuff wasn't as heisty as I was hoping for.
I would agree. They it takes a while to get there, and then it's kind of done. And then they have to get away, kind of thing.
And it's not like, I think Netflix described it as like Dawn of the Dead meets Ocean's 11.
Yeah,
and
barely,
it's like,
really, isn't it?
It doesn't have the heist element of like tricking people and sneaking around.
No, because
they're just sneaking past zombies.
There's a couple of like double crosses, I guess, aren't there? Like, to find out who isn't Hiroyuki in it as well.
Yeah, fucking Hiroyuki Sanada. When he came in, I was like, of course he's in this. Like, I pick a random Netflix film, there he is. He's in fucking everything.
I remember when it came out, there was a couple of little things, because basically it was one of those things. Zack Snyder, as everyone knows, with all the Justice League stuff, he loves to like then talk loads about it afterwards and be like, did everyone notice this one thing? And I'm building up to a universe, look at me, kind of thing. So there's a bit where one of the zombies gets shot and it's got like a robot head. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Then it doesn't come up again.
He's never explained it, but I guess that's because there's supposed to be an animated film coming out at some point, and eventually a sequel at some point.
Yeah, I think I saw there's a sequel planned for like next year. It wasn't called Army of the Dead,
it might be like
something
World
else.
of the Dead or Planet of the Dead.
Yeah.
And there's also apparently in the opening sequence when something happens, like there's a little bit at the start when the outbreak happens or whatever. Apparently there's like a spaceship crashing in the background, so it might be like a.
There was also like the end bit where they're trying to get away in the helicopter because they've decided to bring forward the nuke for a day, which is dumb. And like the zombie guy gets on the helicopter and they fly away. I was like, You're just letting this outbreak loose now, aren't you? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Did you like the smart zombies? How they had a bit of a society thing
it's kind of like a I Am Legend type thing.
Fun. Yeah, very I Am Legend. They had cool little like outfits and stuff, didn't they? And he was like, there's also another bit I remember, like when they go to the vault, there's like dead skeletons that are wearing the same clothes as them.
Yeah, and we're not the first team that have been sent in here.
Apparently it's literally the same outfits they've got, so it's supposed to be implying some sort of potential time thing.
Don't they say that in the film at one point? One of them,
like I feel like we've done this before.
Or one of them jokes that like this could be a time loop.
Yeah. I think one of them has like a necklace that's almost the same but like very slightly different or something. It's classic Zack Snyder. He's sowing the seeds for like maybe I'll make it more sci-fi next time, whatever.
But yeah, it was good fun. Yeah, I nearly went and watched Army of Thieves, but I was like, at first I saw the trailer for Army of Thieves and it had the German
guy,
and I was like, I swear I've just watched a film with this guy in it. And I thought, wait, he's playing like the same character. What's going on here? Yeah. Didn't make the connection until I looked up and I was like, oh, it literally is the same character. It's so weird that of all characters, he's the one that got like a spin-off.
Yeah, I think that was another thing where even though like he seemingly died in it, I think because he got pushed in the vault or something like, oh no, he got carried away, didn't he?
I can't remember.
I think he gets carried away by the main zombie. Zack Snyder's been like, maybe he'll show up again, and that's why we're doing a prequel. Prequel was okay. I mean, I won't go into it too much. It's less zombified stuff. It's more.
I didn't think there's going to be any zombie
the outbreak's
stuff
happening on the TV, and it's like it's set, I guess, concurrent to that. Like, also, wasn't it weird that like there was a massive like montage at the start that was really cool? When they were all like killing the zombies, and then it kind of skips ahead, and you're like, okay, like weird pacing. Isn't
that was a really fun like outbreak in like because it starts with the like truck that gets
that's what I'm thinking,
and the zombie comes out.
Yeah,
I mean it was good fun. I'll probably watch Army of Thieves and keep an eye out for the next one.
I think Zack Snyder's currently doing like his own version of Star Wars, like a planet hopping intergalactic war thing, and that's for Netflix. So I imagine that he's put the brakes on this army of zombie stuff. Yeah,
fair enough. I've got a couple more, but have you got anything else?
Yeah, so I watched. I can't remember when this came out. It came out in 2022. It's The Bad Guys, which is you're like, oh,
okay.
It's a animated film.
I talked about this on the pod last year.
You fucking did it. It's an animated film. I think it's based on like some children's books or something, but I think it was maybe DreamWorks. It's got like Sam Rockwell. It's got Richard Ayoade in it. I think Awkwafina's in it. Craig Robinson, who you know from like The Office and Brooklyn Nine-Nine and stuff like that. It's like a film where the main cast are all like kind of anthropomorphic animals, and they're resigned into their position of being the bad guy, and Sam Rockwell is like the big bad wolf effectively, but it's set in like a modern day thing where they do like heists and stuff, so it's all this kind of very stylish heisty stuff similar to what you were saying about
that. Fun.
It looks very good. It's got that kind of Spider-Verse-y kind of vibe of like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, like nice animation, kind of very stylistic kind of thing. And they kind of go on a quest to potentially become the good guys kind of thing, and it's that kind of thing.
I imagine they do
in some ways. Yeah.
kind of like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah it's pretty fun. It's definitely a kids film. Like, some films you watch it and you're like, this is kind of like half kids film, half adult film.
Yeah.
This is like, if I was a parent, I wouldn't have been unhappy to watch this with a kid, but like it doesn't have a lot for adults to appreciate in it. There's like, it's not like particularly deep or like particularly, there's not a lot to the plot and that sort of thing.
Fair
but
enough.
It was on streaming, and it was a fun, I think it was exactly as you said before, like a fun kind of Saturday morning after a night out. Like this is just a nice, very easy watch kind of vibe there. But yeah, I did enjoy it, so can't say too much about that. But yeah, no, I haven't really. I'm still watching Fast and Furious films in the hopes of catching up by the time the new one comes out. I watched Fast and Furious 8, and it was it was okay. It wasn't the best one. Jason Statham's very good in it. Realised they're very, very much like Jason Statham after watching this. There's I think you watched a little bit when you came around probably a couple of weeks ago. Where him and The Rock were escaping from prison. Yeah, there's a bit towards the end where he's rescuing a baby from a plane, like a big spy plane thing.
Is it his baby from that scene that I saw?
No. What?
There was a scene after where.
Oh no, that was Dom with his baby. That was Vin Diesel.
It was the other.
It was that baby. Yeah. So it's still on that plane where it was locked.
Right.
And he gets it, and he's got a little baby carrier. He puts headphones on it, and then he's going around like shooting all the bad guys. He keeps having to put the baby down. It's a fun kind of action sequence.
Fair enough.
But the rest of the film is nothing to write home about, really. I don't think it's one of the better ones for sure.
Cool.
But we'll see what Fast and Furious 9 is like when I finish watching that.
Is it called Fast 9?
I think so. I mean, this one was the Fate of the Furious to get that 8 in there.
God, they've got terrible names,
and then it's
they?
Fast X rather than the, what everyone should have said, the Fast 10 your seatbelts is what everyone said it should be called.
Fasten your seatbelts.
But yeah, no. So I'll update you all when I've watched Fast 9. Have you watched anything else?
Yeah. So one last thing that I watched yesterday, I think, was Legend. The Tom Hardy about the Cray twins. I had seen it before, but I was like, I'll stick that on. I think it was late last night, and I was deciding to watch a film, and it was either that, I was scrolling through, I was like, I've watched that, or Get Out, and I was like, I wanted something more, I was like on my laptop, more chill, and I was like, I've only seen Get Out once before, but I remember getting quite intense towards the end, and I was like, I'm not in the mood for that. I watched Legend. Have you seen Legend?
I have, quite a while ago, so I don't really remember it too well.
Yeah, it's like 2015.
Yeah, he plays both Cray twins.
Yeah, it's good fun. Like it's kind of, a bit of like an average gangster film, but the added element of these are real people, this is real stuff that happened. Tom Hardy playing both twins is great because he's great, and they you can tell they're twins, but they don't really look alike.
Yeah.
And you're like, but it's the same guy playing both of them.
They're quite different, aren't they? They've got their little quirks.
Yeah. And like it's got a load of extra cast members in there, like David Thewlis.
Yes, I like David Thewlis.
Who's good fun in it, and Rocket Man and Taron Egerton.
Oh, it's Taron Egerton in it.
Yeah, he's like one of the gay craze boyfriend for a bit.
Okay, yes, probably Ronnie, maybe, or maybe
no,
Reggie.
it is Ronnie. It's Ronnie. Yeah, Ronnie's boyfriend. But yeah, it's just
Emily Browning. She's the lead.
Yeah,
there.
But it's quite a good
Christopher
fun
Eccleston's
film.
in it.
Christopher Eccleston. He's the lead police detective that's trying to hunt them down.
And Colin Morgan from Merlin.
Colin Morgan is that Emily Browning's older brother, who's also Reggie Cray's driver. Yes, but it's a good cast. It's a fun film. Like the violence is good fun. There's that great scene where they get called to like a rival gang's like pub to have like a talk, and they get there and they've got like a pipe, and they're like, everybody crazy like, I want you to fucking shoot out, and like storms out, and then they have a big like pub fight, and it's like it's good fun. It's kind of like Kingsman-esque, using bits to fight each other. And like it's just good fun. I think the second half gets more into like the emotional side of it and less of the fun gangster stuff. But like, yeah, it's quite good. And it's one of those where it's like, oh shit, yeah, like that was literally like in this country a few miles away, like 40 years ago.
Yeah, it is pretty mad, isn't it? Yeah. I think a lot of people at the time of that being released were a little bit like, we've all still kind of got quite bad memories of these people, like seeing it as a bit of a glorification thing.
Yeah, there's obviously always some people who are like, oh yeah, no, we like the craze.
Yeah, and that as well, yeah.
Because like, I mean, usually with like gangs films, it's usually like mafia America films, like Gangs of New York or Goodfellas or The Godfather, where it's like
that.
100 years ago in New York, whereas this is like closer.
It's like 60s, isn't it?
Yeah. 60s in London. And it's like, that is pretty recent. But
there's people still alive who would remember it very well.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Cray twins didn't. One of them died in 95 and one like 5 years later or something. So like they still were alive when we were alive. Yeah.
It's probably why the film didn't come out in 2000.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a good film, and Tom Hardy's great.
Yeah, I think I remember enjoying quite a lot of it. I think, like you said, I think the second half, I remember it kind of losing kind of maybe what I came into it for, but I suppose maybe they needed that to make it the serious film that they wanted it to be.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of got to be one of those where they got to be like, at the end of the day, like these were bad people who did bad things and were punished for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can't just be showing the fun.
Isn't it like, is it something to do with like syphilis or something is making him go crazy or something like that?
It's not mentioned in the film.
No, maybe that was something that I read separately, but yeah, I can't really remember too much. It was a long. When did it come out? Like
2015, I think.
Yeah. I think I watched it shortly after it came out. So yeah.
Yeah, same. But so that's it. I've got a couple of bits, but we'll save that for next week. Which means we've come to the end of the show. Thank you for joining us for the final Project Icon episode. Don't know what we'll be doing next week yet. We've got some preliminary plans, but we don't know for sure anything.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Yes, but if you enjoyed this and you enjoyed our entire Project Icon series, please give us 5 stars. It goes a long way. It's always nice to see. If you got particular views on Project Icon or some suggestions, get in contact with us.
Yes, you can do so via email at theprojectpod@gmail.com, or you can find all our social medias in the link tree in the episode description. So you can find all the places that we post when a new episode's out. You can find clips that Lewis puts up on TikTok. You can find any kind of announcements and stuff will be there in between episodes. Yeah. So as Lewis said, we will have a lovely surprise episode for you next week, depending on what we work out. And thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
One last Jason Derulo.